Thank you. Thank you. You know, that's one of my favorite segments of this service. When we do that healing, so often we will say to people in passing, "Oh, I'm going to pray for you." But do you really? Sometimes we don't, quite honestly. I've been guilty of that. I get so busy and I'm like, I'll remember it later. Well, I don't have Post-it notes. I'm a Post-it note hog. They're all over my walls, or on my desk, or in my library. They're probably bothering Reverend Tim in the office because I've got Post-it notes everywhere. So once it's done, you can pull it out. But we actually pray for people. I told someone earlier today who was struggling, and I said, "Don't worry, your name will go into my altar. It'll go into, I have a little basket, and I pray for people." So I write their names, and I have some little sacred objects. You should all have an altar or something where you a point of meditation in your home where you pray. And just send out distant healing, kind of what I did in that meditation. All we have to do is just sit and breathe, expand our auric field, imagine ourselves, because imagination is, Spirit has said, your thoughts create physical things in the spirit world. In other words, they're tangible to the spirit world. It may not be physical to us in the spirit world, but for the spirits, they say your thoughts create physical things. So when we pray and we send out distant healing energies, you're sending powerful change agents to the recipients. And I love that we heal people with our words and with our truth with that book. So thank you for doing that today. Now, Reverend Tim, make sure that I have all the events. I want to announce a couple of events coming up, but it seems like I'm going to miss a third one. I can't figure out what that is right now. The neuron hasn't connected. So next Saturday is our monthly psychic fair, as we all know. That's the last Saturday of every month. Starts at 12, ends at 4. And we've got a bunch of readers. We have vendors, healers, intuitives, all kinds of interesting things. We've been doing this for 20-something, I don't know, Carol, 25 years, 40 years? I don't know how long we've been doing this, but it's been a long time. So we're one of the few psychic fairs in South Florida. Come be a part of that. If you're struggling in life, need a little guidance, come to our readers. I vet them all, make sure we have good quality readers. Tony helps me as well. And you will come and have a wonderful afternoon. So I want to invite you to that. Now, don't forget, you probably have seen on the back table, Joseph Labruto, our man of mystery. Love him. I saw him last night at our late night event. I think we were here until 1 a.m. That's how late it was. That's some sacrifice that I had to do for you, but I did it. I'm here. But anyway, Joseph Labruto, you may have seen him on NBC or ABC. He's one of the top 100 psychics in America. He will be here. His flyer is on the back table. October 27th, next Sunday, 2 events, 2 p.m., 6 p.m. Divine healing, divine energy healing experience, and then also Speaking to Heaven event. Wonderful events. Come be a part of that. Is there anything else I'm missing?
That's the service.
Oh, that's what it was. It's all about me. So after service today, I will do a 30-minute demonstration of our beliefs in the continuity of life after death. So I'll do a 30-minute message service, and at the end of this service today, we'll also do a little mini version of that for those of you who just want to see what it's about. It'll be included in the service. But the one at 12:30 is a $5 contribution. Just come be a part of that if you're available, and we always have a fun time. We have a decent crowd in here. Okay? I think that's everything about that. Well, Tony chose the very appropriate declaration of principle, number 9. That declaration of principle is a very interesting principle because it truly does have to do with that word I was inspired with, surrender. Reformation, right? And this is what the declaration of principle says. We affirm that the doorway to reformation, change, really is what it's saying, betterment, is always open to any soul, human or otherwise, because we know that there's more than just humans in the universe. It's got to be. Okay? But anyway, it's always open to any soul here or hereafter. What does that mean? It means on earth you can change and better. But it also means in spirit you can change, you can better. So we don't just go sit on a cloud playing a harp in a galaxy far, far away, and we don't just not do anything. We are evolving here on earth and in spirit. Okay? So that's a very a beautiful declaration of principle, and I enjoy when we talk about it because we get to talk about change. And so often in my sermons, I'm always saying, you change your mind, you'll change your life. And that goes right back to the process of reformation. Reformation is really a process, it's of your action steps. You can take steps, but really the key word is you got to do some action. Okay? Because a lot of people, you say that, but what you do is I'm going to do some bullet points for the week, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but do you do them? You got to have some action steps, right? I see some people giggling. And what does that do? It helps progress us as souls. So it progresses us as souls to self-analyze, to go inward in meditation, to see, why am I dealing with this situation? Why did this person not come with me today? Why does this person push my buttons all week? What is in that lesson for me? Even if I'm not the one instigating, but the other person is, they are mirroring something energetically you need to receive and you need to look at. That's why they're annoying the heck out of you. Because it's a signal, it's a red flag. There's something wrong. You can feel it. You just think it's the other person. But it probably, your soul asked them to come and be the mirror for you in that situation, right? Our soul, when I talk about soul and spirit, a lot of times people, you'll come up to me after church to ask, what is soul and what is spirit? So I want to include that in here so you get a little better understanding, to put in that library of the books in your mind. Okay, so soul, what is that? Soul is really the vehicle that carries the aspect or link to our greater spirit. Your greater spirit is perfection. It is the first attribute, the first ray of light that comes out of God, that first expression out of God. It's infinite. Your greater self, your greater spirit is infinite. It's omnipresent. It's everywhere, in all times, all space. But the soul is a direct link to that. And the soul brings it like a vehicle into this body. Does that make sense? Yep. I see a few heads. I know it's a little nerdy. It's a little heady for you on a Sunday morning. But the soul links our body to that greater spirit. And the soul, it took me a few years to figure this out. Your soul is where your consciousness is. Consciousness is not in the body. Science has already proven that. The consciousness does not reside in this body. There's so many experiments that prove that is a myth. Isn't it fascinating? Our spirit has divine characteristics, meaning our greater spirit. It's divine and it's perfect. And it has no ego, so it has no personality. That's how we know the consciousness is attached to our soul. Okay? And your soul has human characteristics because we've chosen a life on earth. Your higher self, how many times do we talk about our higher self? We go to these workshops and conferences. Oh, I'm going to work with my higher self. My higher self's going to come in and I'm going to talk to your higher self and we're going to work this out. You're not going to push my buttons anymore. Right? Higher self, what is that? I know, millennials again, what do you know? They know everything.
Your higher self is kind of like your greater self in a way, and it's something that you can connect to help you in certain situations that your ego wouldn't set it up.
Very nice. You may or may not have heard that, but I'll repeat it. She basically said your higher self is your greater self. And it's really true. It's where your higher self is your soul consciousness. Okay? Because it really is a thinking part of you. So often when we do some of our spiritual work in meditation or in workshops or events, and you're working on bettering yourself, there's that word, it really is the soul aspect of you. It's your higher self. So think of your higher self, okay, as your soul, the conscious soul. Very good, y'all. But you want to be a preacher? Be a co-pastor for me? Okay. Let me talk about my childhood. Just a moment of the Debbie Downer. My childhood was a little rough, okay? Grew up in Texas with Southern Baptist religion. There were a lot of restrictions. On Sunday, we were perfect. On Monday through Saturday, we did whatever we wanted. We didn't follow all those rules. That was just us in our farming community. Then in middle school, I relocated to another part of my family and went to a Church of Christ school, very strict. You weren't allowed to do anything there. You couldn't even have Tim Jack singing because you were not, you could sing, but you couldn't have music. No music in church. It was all a cappella. And it was very strict. Okay, we didn't even have a prom. How terrible is that? I wasn't allowed to have a prom. That was too promiscuous. So then my family also took us to we call them charismatic Christians. And some people call them holy rollers because they're very vocal. So they do lots of hands-on healing. People are falling, jumping around, rolling around, speaking in tongues, which was fascinating to me as a kid. They would do prophetic prayer. They would do do psalm ministry, they do all kinds of prophetic stuff, the gifts of the Spirit. They were literally surrendering to everything God, Christian-wise, had to offer for them. They were fully surrendered. They didn't care what anybody else thought. They were living large in that church, and I was fascinated. That church was truly a moment of excitement for me as a high schooler, because everything else was so restricted in my life. But what I found was I could surrender myself in those walls, in that community, where I could not surrender myself in the, I'm going to say Christian high school, for lack of a better word. But I was able to surrender. But there was still an element of, in all of those experiences for me growing up religiously, spiritually, fear, guilt, judgment, eternal damnation, fire and brimstone was heavy, heavy. You know, they literally would throw the Bible at you. Very heavy. And, you know, I found, well, this is just for me, but I found that I was considered evil right off the bat, just by being born. I was considered sinful. I was considered damned to eternity in hell just for being born. Nobody was offering me a large glass of iced tea where I was headed, you know. And so, if you didn't follow the precepts of the teachings, you would never enter a holy place, heaven they call it. And so in metaphysics, we talk about how there's no heaven, there's no hell, but these are states of consciousness that your higher self, your soul, exists within when you disincarnate from this body, when you release and go into the spirit world of life. And so it was very interesting because I found in some communities I could be myself, but there were still restrictions. And again, we go back to surrendering. And the process of changing myself wasn't really discussed in church. It was just because based on the teachings, they were limiting me, my potential, my life. And the teachings of those churches were, as we all know, fear-based, right? And so in Divine Metaphysics, we really, truly try to focus on the love basis of the teachings. And we try to explain the teachings of sin or eternal damnation in a true metaphysical way. What does it really mean? What did it originally mean? And we find that they don't mean anything we were ever taught, right? In a lot of our spiritual centers around the world. No matter who you are, let me say this. At the heart of my ministry, and I think you know this, at the heart of my ministry is always and will be no judgment. And it truly is. People have told me they love to come here because they feel no judgment, no guilt, no shame. The concept of sin, we don't teach that. We know what it really means. It just means you missed your spiritual mark. Get back on the path. Again, no judgment. It's about reformation, doing the best you can, because it really doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter where you've been, it doesn't matter what's happened to you in life. There's always a place for you here, the Metaphysical Chapel. You know, we talk about God as love and God as perfection, right? God is the ultimate one source reality of truth, true perfection. And we emanate from that source. We emanate as kind of like those rays of light from the central sun I talked about earlier. And so what does that mean? If we came from perfection, there must be an aspect of us that is perfection. But this mind, this physical, let me say this, physical brain is like a filter, okay? And there's this veil over us that the soul allows to happen that keeps us unaware of the spirit world. We have to struggle so that we are pulled back to spirit. That's why one of the reasons why we have terrible tragedies in our life. We lose our loved ones, relationships blow up, jobs are lost, you're decimated by health or something. It's literally to bring you back to a point of humility and recognizing who and what you are at your essential core. And what does that do? It pulls you back to God. You begin to pray because you don't know what else to do. You've got nothing left. You're like, well, the Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, they're all praying, I better pray. I don't know if it's going to work, but it literally pulls you back into alignment with your true nature. And that's the purpose of tragedies and struggles, is to make you look at them. Why is this person pushing? You're not pushing my buttons. I keep pointing at you. But I'm just saying, why am I struggling? Why is all these difficulties and challenges in my life? It's to help you find the spiritual lesson in the thing that you're struggling with, right? You were made exactly as God needed you to be made. You're a necessary ingredient. I love saying that. We are necessary ingredients in this universe. It would not be perfectly complete without me present on the earth, without you present on the earth. We all need to be here to complete the universe. And that's why we're so important and why this life cannot be wasted by just sitting around, going to work, not contributing. We have to bring more light of God. And that exercise, that meditation earlier was really, I was trying to just give us a moment of surrender to bring more light of God onto the planet, but specifically for you, not really for other people. I wanted you to get a little bit of light in your life. I wanted to teach you how simple it is just to breathe in that light and just to align yourself with the principle of God. Make sense? Powerful affirmation I heard. We all know this one. Be still and know that I am God. What does that mean? Be still, meditate. Know that I am God. It means to align ourselves with that principle of divine source. Be still, meditate, align yourself with higher truth, with that divine truth, and the answers will begin to come when you begin to get quiet and you listen and you open your astral eye. You'll probably begin to see visions. You can push your mind into those situations and literally watch the interplay of the visions. If you're clairvoyant or maybe you're clairaudient, you'll begin to hear a song with the lyrics that you need to solve a problem in your life. Or maybe you just begin to claircognizantly know the answer, what you need to do or who you need to see or what you need to do with the situation. That's really what it's all about. Be still and know that I am God. And again, we go back to surrender. You're surrendering, going within. And it's really interesting because we are the only species on this planet who has free will. No animal has it, even though the dolphins and the whales are so evolved. There's a lot of animals that can think and they have emotions. We have free will, we have reason. We can make choices in our life, those choices to be a blessing or to be a burden to others. We can choose to act or not act in beautiful ways or even harmful ways. We get to choose, and that's the blessing of our soul. And that has to do, again, back with Reformation and surrender and change. It's all interconnected. All interconnected. Life, it's all about living, doing, and being. Life. Our soul experiences this principle, and that a universal principle of karma. What is that? Cause and effect. I do one thing, it has an effect. The cause causes the effect. Okay? So the spiritual principle of cause and effect, our intentions, what you want to do in your life, what you want to change, what you want to do better at, that's your cause. And the effect is actually the influence on that future, the influence of your outcome. That's the effect. And everybody makes mistakes. There's no point in life without mistakes. Don't pray for a perfect life. I heard in Lakota Indian, a medicine man, tell me one time a beautiful little story about a little boy. And this little boy told his grandfather that he wanted to pray for his brother, an older brother, who was into alcohol and drugs and not doing very good on the reservation. And he told his grandfather, the medicine man, "Grandfather, I want to pray that he no longer has to fight the drugs and alcohol." And the grandfather said, "That's a horrible prayer. Don't you ever pray that way." I was like, "Well, what?" And he taught the little boy this prayer. And he said to the young boy, his grandson, he said, "Pray that your brother finds the strength to overcome the life lessons." And I thought, whoa, that's an interesting prayer. Because he said that spirit, if you pray that the person no longer has to deal with it, their life could be ended and they can go into spirit, and they never solved karmically what they needed to solve. They never addressed what they needed to address. You could have been the change agent that opened the door of their exit point. Their souls could have agreed to, all right, I'll slip out now, but the lesson hasn't been learned. I thought it was a very interesting way to teach a child to pray, which was you surrender and you give to another person. You pray for another person's strength and their determination and their free will choices. I think that's beautiful. It's so unusual. You don't ever hear prayer like that. It's very interesting. You change your mind and you change your life. Karma. We talk about karma, but we don't really explain it fully. And people will say there's good karma and bad karma. That's not really true. Karma, as Spirit has taught us, is all about weight. There's a vibrational weight, a heaviness, if you will, or a lightness. So say, for instance, I go through life and I'm doing pretty good, but then I destroy my family, my career, my neighborhood. Whatever I do harmful things because of my choices, right? My thoughts, my words, my actions. I create karmic weight for my soul's journey that must be dealt with, must be lightened, so I can continue to progress and evolve to higher vibrations, right? And so if I go through a process of, say, recovery, and I begin to better myself, and I start going to a spiritual community like this, or I begin to serve other people, or I begin to just do charity work, or just even just work on myself, that's spiritual. I'm beginning to lighten my karmic weight in my soul's journey. I allow my soul to progress faster because my karmic weight has been lightened. Does that make sense? Karma is not good or bad. Karma simply is. But there is a weight to the karma for your soul's progress. And that's how I want you to think about that. If we act bad in life, we must counteract that with love. Make sense? We got to find the spiritual lesson in the life lesson. Reformation of your soul, it really depends, luckily, not on my preaching today. But the reformation of the soul, it depends on the analysis of the spiritual situation challenging you. So every time you have a situation that's driving you crazy or breaking your heart, somebody did you wrong song, like we say in Texas. You know, there's a reason why it's a red flag in your life. There's a reason why your life is a hot mess. You haven't dealt with your situation. Your soul is bringing it back again and again and again. Why do our friends keep going back to the same type of guys or girls again and again and again? Because they haven't solved what they need to work on. Right? Why do they keep putting themselves into jobs they don't care for, but they're focused on the money because they haven't learned that money is just energy. And if where you put your focus and the intentions of that focus creates even more of it. So you probably will never get a better job that has everything to do with you and not the money. I don't know if I said that right. But basically what I want to say is it's about letting go of that contact, that holding on to materialism, focusing on the spirit of myself and what my soul wants to do. Maybe I want to create this amazing place like a Pavarella where we have a thrift store and a food bank and spiritual counseling and all these kinds of things. But I'm over here working at Citrix Systems making $100,000. Yes, it's good money. You can buy fun things. But is it really, you're constantly wanting to buy more because it never fills the hole. I found that in my life. Wasted a lot of money. It never really fulfilled me. That's why I don't wear much. I don't wear much jewelry. I have jewelry, but I don't wear it. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't find value in it anymore. It's a waste of my resources that I could be using to go off. You know, I go on trips. Well, that's what I spend my money on. Trips that benefit me spiritually so that I can bring that home and benefit you guys. That's how I burn off karma. I make the sacrifice of not buying really nice things so that I can take care of myself so it takes care of you. That's how I work in the world. So you got to kind of find how all of this fits in. It's all interconnected. Surrender, reformation, karmic principles, universal laws. Quite fascinating. I want you to remember this. This is that powerful, it's really a prosperity affirmation, which you may never have thought about this before. A prosperity affirmation for betterment. Be still and know that I am God. Okay, I said that earlier. Let's take it a step further. Be still and know that I am God at work in this situation now. Be still and know that I am God at work in this situation now. And if you'll say that mantra anytime somebody pushes your buttons or things don't go your way, it will truly make a huge difference because you'll realize you're surrendering, you're attempting to make a change in your life, you're attempting to evolve your soul through that situation. And it will begin to make a huge difference in your life. The synchronicities will begin to change. Make change in your life. When we begin the process of bettering, changing, growing, learning, to make a difference for ourselves first, we can begin to make change in our communities, like our churches, in our cities, in our civic programs, things like that. It's how we make a difference on earth. We're reforming ourselves, we're bettering ourselves, we're growing ourselves on earth. But if the exit point comes and I have to transition today, I know I can work on everything that is me and what I need to do for my soul in the spirit world. Maybe in a different way. But I can work in both places. But why not start today? Why wait till we get to the spirit world? Because you evolve faster, Spirit has told us, by struggling and bumbling on this roller coaster of life in this earth dimension. This harsh, muddy, mucky, lower vibrational dimension, your soul progresses faster here on earth than it does in spirit. And that's why we as wise souls come here, because we know we're trying to evolve our souls to a point of change. I want you to repeat after me, ladies and gentlemen. I am a perfect expression of God.
I am a perfect expression.
Absolutely. I am reforming, changing, bettering myself every day.
I am reforming, changing, bettering myself every day.
I'm a divine ingredient that rocks this universe.
I'm a divine ingredient.
That's a t-shirt idea. I like that. So repeat after me our declaration of principle, because I love this one. When you change your mind, you change your life. And I just wanted to seed the garden of your mind with these principles, but repeat after me. We affirm that the doorway to Reformation
We affirm that the doorway to Reformation
is always open to any soul here or hereafter.
always open to any soul here or hereafter.
Is that easy?